So just let me check. Welcome to At the Kitchen Table. And this is, I'm Judy Witz-Francini in Tuscany. Yay! And this is Mara Jernigan, and you're in British Columbia, right? Wait, Mara, your microphone's off again. One more. No. No, okay. One more time. Your microphone. No. I need the your microphone's not on. Just a minute and we'll try. For some reason, your microphone says it's off. And I don't think I can do anything for that. Here, wait, ask to unmute. Wait. Here, watch this. Ask to unmute.
Unmute.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Judy. I had it unmuted before. I don't know what's going on.
I know,
I'm lucky when I teach classes here. I have another chef that I'm working with that she does all the technical stuff and I just cook.
Well, I just think it's a miracle anyway that we can even be doing this, you know?
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So Mara, I want you to just like introduce yourself. We've known each other for years, but I forget where we actually met. Do you remember?
We met in Florence. We probably met through Nathan Fong, actually.
I think so too.
The late Nathan Fong and Sinclair. Sinclair says hi, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But you weren't on that. Were you on the tour that you came to my kitchen? With Sinclair and Nathan and Don?
I left at that point. They did some stuff with you, but we went on a beautiful late night tour of Florence, which was wonderful. You took us on a walking tour through Florence.
So that's where we connected, because I have a picture of a dinner party in my house and you weren't there.
Yeah, because I had left. I had to go back to school, I think. I think it was when I was going to school. So that would have been the fall of 2003.
And which school did you go to?
I went to a school that's no longer there. Before Slow Food started a university, they started a master cooking school for Italian regional cooking. And it was in the market. A lot of
people there because you had spoken so well of it. Was that down in Florida?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was called Ital Cook.
Yeah, that was really great.
Every week we studied a different region with a different chef from that region. Mm-hmm. And I studied Italian while I was there. I managed to learn to speak passable Italian during my time there. And then afterwards, for the younger ones more, you could go and work in Italy for up to a year. I didn't have that kind of time, but I did go and work in Puglia and I did work in Piedmont for a while.
And how long was the program?
It was, I think it was 10 weeks, and then you could stay and work for up to a year. So I was, fleeing a marriage that was falling apart, and it seemed like running away to Italy was a good thing. Way before they did that eat, pray, love stuff, which I thought was pretty lame.
And so she got paid to do it is what, it's like, it's kind of funny because there's all these things that I criticize because they got paid to do it, but they've all brought so many people to Italy and exposed people to Italy and let people dream about Italy, really,
That's true. That's true.
And the whole thing is that Italy is really, like you're saying, a place to have a renaissance. I think a lot of people come here. I mean, a lot of my clients are people that I meet, divorces, cancer, things that have really beaten people up, and they come to Italy, and it seems to really feed their souls. Not just like with the food, but the love of art and the passion for living. And I think there's a certain also respect and interaction that people get, where a lot of times in America, I think people feel maybe when you get older too, you get ignored more.
That's true.
And here they love you. I mean, everybody is just so open to meeting new people. I think it's great. So after you did school, what did you do?
Then, simultaneously I was doing the slow food work. I was volunteering for slow food on a local level, and not so much on a national level at that time, but also on an international level. Mm-hmm. So I was with the Slow Food Arc of Taste in Presidia foundation. I was their representative for Canada. So I had to find products in Canada that needed preserving and protecting and promoting. So because of that, I got to come to Italy for meetings and trips.
That's great.
And we had amazing trips to, like, in Tuscany, because there's a lot of Tuscan products on the Slow Food Arc of Taste. We went to like Orbitello, and we went to see we went to Maremma, where they have those incredible autochthonous cows and the Tuscan cowboys who are,
I love that.
They're just look amazing. Yeah. And so I got to see a lot of really unusual behind the scenes things. And then combined with some of the professors or the chefs that I had met there, like Pepe Zullo from Puglia, I really, really connected with him. And also, you know, I spent a lot of time in Bra. So Beppe Barbera, who was from Osteria Bocandavino, which was the little osteria that birthed slow food. I worked with him a bit, and I worked at Castello di Verduno. And it's just layers. If you have the time, and instead of just setting an itinerary where you're putting down all these kind of, you know, iconic things, if you really have the time to scratch the surface, you just find more and more and more. And then when I came back to North America, I was telling people about it, and somebody said, wow, I'd love to go to Italy with you. And I was like, well, I'll take you. And that's what started my tours. And that was 2004 when I started bringing people to Italy.
I just think it's great, but I also think so many people get immersed in this planning a vacation for like a year. Maybe they only have a week or 10 days, so everything has to be in place. And a lot of people can't even like risk trying to find a place to stay. They don't speak the language, they've never been here. So they do get blocked into what I consider like a beginner's trip to Italy.
Yeah.
And you go to the places that you've heard about, that your friends have been to, and you kind of repeat what's safe.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary maybe to just like do like how you and I do, but I think once you've come here often enough that you start building up your friends, you get relations, and you know that you can leave things open, because like, oh my God, tomorrow there's a festival in this little village in a hill, let's go. It's like, well, who's got a car? Well,
a festival for some obscure chickpea or for tripe or, you know.
Yeah, so I always try to, like, when I book my tours, find a food festival or a religious festival, always has food attached to it. Like normally I'm in Sicily right now for St. Joseph's Day, and they have the bread altars, and the bread altars have banquets. They feed the poor and they feed everybody that comes up, and there's these breads that are sculptured, and then they decorate these altars. And I guess the tradition has carried on with the Sicilians, like in New Orleans, they were telling me. In New Orleans, it's really big, and a lot of the people from New Orleans went to Kansas City. And then also in Chicago, they have the St. Joseph's Day festivals now. And some of them have just become Italian American food festivals. But the real Sicilians, it's like a club, you know, they build these altars, you have to have certain dishes. And there's the breadcrumbs, which are supposed to be the sawdust of Joseph, because he was the carpenter.
Wow.
And I'll send you.
What's the actual day of that festival?
It's Father's Day. So Irish people have St. Patrick's Day, which is the 17th. And the 19th is St. Joseph's Day.
Wow.
So it was just last week. And the women of the villages spend, just weeks preparing these bread sculptures, like big ones and then little ones like ornaments, to decorate these huge altars inside churches. I've seen one in like a fallen apart, in Gabriella's Castelvetrano, they have a church that was bombed, but the wall with the frescoes on it is still there. And there's a garden outside now, and people come to that altar, and then they decorate it. They put a little, roof up, and people go there and they're singing and praying and feeding people, and a lot of symbolism, which is why sometimes, you only get those things during that festival.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. So where do you take people?
Well, I mean, Judy, I worked with you a bit. What I try and do with people, I try to tell them I'll take you on an off the beaten path trip to Italy. If you want to go to Florence, if you want to go to Rome, go there by yourself. And I would always connect people with you. Although sometimes my trips would like start in Turin and finish in Florence or whatever.
I love Torino so much. Oh my God.
I do too. So I usually meet them at Cafe Platti in Torino. In the last couple of years, I've changed the format and I've been doing Sicily, but I've done like 1 week in the north, 1 week in the south, 10 days in all of Italy, but that's too much traveling. It's a lot of driving.
It's a lot of times traveling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have them fly into a bigger center and then I would take them from there. But now they're flying into Palermo. And I think it's good because people can still go to Rome. They can still go to Florence.
Yeah. A lot of people stay the first days, 2 or 3 days, get over the jet lag in a bigger city.
Yeah. And I say, you don't really need me to figure that out. You can people speak English. You can do that on your own, but I'll take you and to the remote places where you need a car because not everybody wants to drive in Italy. And B, you kind of need the language and you need that's why I love to work with people like Gabriella, who gets me into amazing caseificio and, to see the cheese making and to see just the really unusual things. And so now I've started renting villas. I mean, you and I have talked about this before because you've been taking people to Sicily for years. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to do. The other thing is it's a liability. I partly did it for health reasons because going to Italy every year, especially in the north, I'd come back 10 pounds heavier. It's not good for my health. And you can't eat 2 big meals out a day. No, so now we eat like a nice meal, a big meal during the day. And then I cook lighter things at home because also Sicily is a wonderful place to cook. I have a real thing for volcanic soil and its effect on wine and vegetables. And I love the seafood. So as I've gotten older, I have to take care of my health and I'm happiest eating fish and vegetables.
Exactly. And I found too, it was really fun that we go to the markets, we go to the grocery stores, and most of the people I take, number one, they're usually older people, right?
Yeah.
And so we have the same lifestyle kind of ideas. And if you can just sit at home at night and chit chat about everything, and I have a group of ladies that comes with me all the time, and I buy 5-liter boxes of the box wine, and we try really good wines too, but people just want to sit around and feel comfortable and just get up and get some table wine and some salami and cheeses, local crackers, nice salads, because you really don't get salads out. People go out.
You don't get them in restaurants very much.
Yeah. So getting salads, bowls of fruits from the morning, yogurt, the stuff you need. And then when you go out, we have a nice big lunch. You do snacking, street food, right? It's just like, you have to have balance or you just, I'm ready to explode. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, and it's funny because for me also, I think since I went through a marriage breakup and my mom and dad have, both passed away a long time ago, like for me going to Italy every year, it's kind of rare and unusual to really have a connection, a very close personal connection to a lot of people in Italy. And I always say like, you can go all over in Italy, but if you get invited into somebody's home, that's pretty special. It doesn't happen that often in Italy, maybe partially because they have smaller homes. But, working with the Duchess in Palermo.
I love her.
She's amazing. Yeah, like you really get this inside view and I always say, if you go to Italy by yourself, out of 10 experiences, 2 might be excellent, 6 might be mediocre, and 4 might be bad. Mm-hmm. But if you go with somebody who knows what they're doing and has good connections and is tried and true, everything will be excellent.
Yeah, it's just so memorable. The last time I was with the Duchess, we did the market and then cooking class at her house, right? And it was so funny because she explained that we were going, to the fish guy, right? And she goes, it's my fish guy.
Yeah.
She goes, I can't go to anybody else. That's my fish guy. So, and this is so true. It happens to me in Florence. You have your person and they're responsible for your happiness. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So, if you say, I'm going to make caciucco and you go there and he knows he doesn't have all the fish, he doesn't he doesn't let you even go to anybody else. He'll go and get the fish from the other market people and then come back.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And give it to you because you're his responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not like
That's
in America,
great.
we don't have that, go over there. No,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
totally responsible, you know? That's really cute.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll tell his underling, go and run over there, go and get it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that once there, I go to a market restaurant in Palermo. It's just like you eat out in the patio, and it's not even a patio.
Yeah.
You eat out in the piazza in the street, and they just pull up tables there. And the guy pulls up a little like a home barbecue and is barbecuing stuff. And I told him I wanted to eat something, and I thought it was something that was on the menu, and it wasn't. And he ran over to like the butcher shop, bought it,
Wow.
came back and cooked it for us.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, whoa, oh, how nice. You know, that was really weird, but that was, I mean, they just want you to be happy because you've placed your trust in them,
Yeah.
and you're theirs.
Yeah.
Because you go
I
back to the same
remember
people.
I remember being kind of afraid to go to Palermo. I was told it was really like intense and, you know, high tempo. And I was amazed at how much I actually really loved it. The last time I was in Italy, I spent, actually, no, it was like 2 years ago, just around this time, actually. I was doing some reconnaissance and I came down with Roberto, who drives for me. And then he had to go back early. And I had a week in Palermo by myself. And it was just amazing. Like you can just walk and walk and walk the streets, and it's falling apart in some places, but it falls apart so beautifully.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you know, Palermo was actually like the first city that was like bombed in the war.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they gave up like the first day to
Yeah.
like be protected. The mafia kind of made a deal with the church or something, and but they kind of left the city that was bombed out, and there was a mafia thing where the mayor got like money to rebuild the city, but instead of rebuilding the old city, he built a new city.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's like a
Yeah.
1960s Palermo where all the big
Yeah.
brand new modern apartment buildings, and the
Yeah.
old stuff. I mean, you walk around, it's like you're in a war zone. And I started
Yeah.
going, I think the first time I went was in 2009 to Palermo.
Yeah.
And my first tours I just did based in Palermo with like a couple of day trips because I thought Palermo just had so much to see.
Yeah.
It
really does. And you taught me something, Judy. You taught me this in Florence. You took me to the Hotel Baglioni.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because you took me there at sunset. You said, let's go have a drink. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll go have a drink. And then we get in this elevator, and then all of a sudden the elevator opens and we walk out onto this terrace that overlooks all of Florence. And
magical.
It was so amazing. And ever since you did that with me, I've taken many people there since. And ever since you did that with me, I'm always looking in any city really for like, where is that beautiful rooftop terrace, you know?
Yeah, because
and Palermo has a few.
I used to work at a 5-star hotel in San Francisco. And I don't think people really, well, most people I know don't think about going to like a hotel in a foreign city for cocktails.
Yeah.
They think, you kind of think the restaurants and everything are service for the people that are staying there. But some of the best bars in Italy are in the hotels.
It's
and they
true.
There's a place I go to in Catania that you can book a special breakfast. And it's a rooftop breakfast of all of the traditional Sicilian goodies on the terrace overlooking Mount Etna.
Yeah.
It's great. And
there's a place in Naples like that too, where they literally have like a piano player for breakfast playing a white grand piano, and he's wearing a white jacket.
Yeah.
And you're overlooking, Vesuvius and the Bay of Naples. And so it's those kinds of special experiences. It's very fun to do that with people where they don't really know where you're going to take them.
Yeah.
And, to just kind of shock them, and they're like, oh my God,
Yeah. The same thing too. Like when people just, I don't know, when they come with me, I don't really give a day by day, minute by minute, play by play of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Because I do like surprises, and I also know everything isn't always possible, and you have to be able to shimmy things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found that when I wrote up tours, because I work with a lot of people that have cooking schools in America and they want to bring people and they write up the step by step. We're going to be here. We're going to be there. We're going to be here. We're going to be there. They always want to book too many things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we can't do more than one thing in the morning and one thing in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Maybe we can, but I don't think you should promise. Like I have somebody who books wine tours and they go to 5 wineries in a day.
Ugh.
Every day. And I'm like, you're not seeing a country. Why did you come here? You could drink at home.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I think unless you have like sommeliers or real serious wine people with you on a trip, two wineries is usually plenty.
Well, I find
I mean,
because everyone wants to take you to their cantina.
And yeah, it's like if you've seen one tank, you've seen them all. But I mean, I love going to Planeta and I love going to Ocapinti. They're both very different wineries.
Weren't you pleased that she was on Stanley Tucci?
Yes, I was.
It was nice. She was so serious for almost the whole part.
Yeah.
That was really great.
Yeah. I've never met her. I know her sister who runs the Agriturismo. Yeah. 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 I often say about Italy, like if every once in a while you get somebody who's really antsy. When we first did our admissions thing into the course that I took in the Marche, we were all standing around on day one and it was still a pretty new program and nobody understood English or nobody understood Italian. And they were marching us around town, taking us to like the city hall and doing all this stuff with us. And some of the American students are like, when are we getting our uniform? When are we doing this? When are we doing that? And they brought like an Italian woman in, a seamstress, to like measure us and fit us for our uniforms and our shoes. And then like at one point I just said like, look around at what's happening. Like this is like a movie. I mean, I think in Italy, and it's funny, you see less smoking now, but life is kind of what goes on while people are waiting for what was scheduled, and if you miss that piece that happens while you're waiting, you've missed half of the Italian experience.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do kind of feel like I'm in a movie all the time because all the stuff that's just going on around you. And I think one thing that people don't do enough is sit in the piazzas and just watch what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
I love watching like all the little old men playing cards, like all over the place, and what the little, and luckily I can speak Italian, so luckily when we usually go around too, I like to stand in the markets and then translate what little ladies are saying, like eavesdropping. Because I remember that was the happiest day, and for me when I lived in Italy, I bought a one-way ticket in 1984. And I couldn't speak Italian. So I took Italian classes and it probably took a while before I could really eavesdrop or talk on the phone or anything. And I just remember one day being on the bus and you're always so alone because you don't speak the language. And all of a sudden I understood what a mother and daughter were saying to each other. And that just opened my world.
Yeah.
And then eavesdropping, I could learn more words and was standing in line at the grocery store. What did that lady in front of me ask for? Because food things are never really taught to you in language classes.
Yeah. Yeah. We made our language teacher, like we were 5 students and all chefs. So we had a very young Italian language teacher. And we actually asked her, it's like, you got to put together a curriculum for us that we want to know all the cooking verbs. We want to know all the names of this and vegetables and cuts of meat and this and that. So it was good.
Yeah. It's still kind of even hard today because they cut their meat differently.
True. It's true.
So it's not the same cuts of meat, and they cook differently, and and then you have dialect, and then you have words that are maybe like Sicilian, but they don't know what they are in Puglia or in Florence. It's called something else. So I remember coming down and what's the big funny one in Sicily? I think broccoli and cauliflower have changed names.
Oh yeah.
Cavolfiore is actually broccoli and whatever. But someone said, someone was saying to me, they didn't eat broccoli. And then they said on the menu that they had broccoli. And I'm like, it's not broccoli, it's cauliflower. It's like, but it's like, and then people have all their food allergies. And it's like, I want to be sure they don't get really what they can't eat.
Yeah.
What is that called here,
Yeah. Well, the Stanley Tucci, one of the ones that really caught my attention was when he went to Ischia, because
yeah,
I
the
knew
rabbits.
Ricardo Damba very well.
Mhm.
That was the year that I went to school. I went to Naples for the first time because Slow Food had their big international congress in Naples. And it's funny, they have a formula. Like, they did things there that I couldn't believe anybody could do. They managed to get the main Piazza di Plebiscito closed,
Wow.
and they set up this huge like Arc of Taste thing. Then we had a private dinner at Pompeii with all the best osteria
Oh,
of
great.
Campania.
Oh,
Like, we
great.
got to eat in Pompeii at night. It was just
Beautiful, huh?
magical. And then at Capodimonte, they had all the Tre Bicchieri, or not Tre Bicchieri, the Gambero Rosso chefs or the Michelin chefs
Uh-huh.
cook for us there. And it was like a dinner for 4,000 people. I mean, I can only imagine what they had to do to get the connections to make all that stuff happen. So I was really blown away by Naples. And then I went back and I just picked up the phone and because I had the Slow Food Arc of Taste book, which had every single ARC product in it. And so wherever I would go, I would look up those products and they'd have a contact name.
Always.
And I saw I was in the Bay of Naples and they have all the ferries there. And I knew that Ischia wasn't very far away. It only took like less than an hour to get there. So I just phoned this guy up, and it was Ricardo D'Ambra who answered the phone because he was responsible for the cave rabbits.
Yeah, yeah.
So I called him, and he was like more than willing to have us come and visit. It was a Sunday. I was with my ex-husband and my son. We got on the boat, we went over, and he just showed us everything. But I mean, what Stanley Tucci covered was just the tip of the iceberg, because there's so many stories involved in how raising those rabbits came to be. And it was actually because of the film industry in the United States and the shooting of Cleopatra, which took 2 years. They were on Ischia for 2 years. And it lured all the peasants away from the vineyards into the film industry. And my friend Ricardo actually played an extra as a Roman soldier.
How funny, yeah.
And he was just like a teenager. But, he was like, he got in trouble from his mother because he'd snuck away from school to do this work as an extra. But then at that point, that was the point in time when the vineyards were abandoned. And what they used to do is like weed the vineyards. And they do soil amendments where they dig out these holes. And then when they weeded the holes, or when they weeded the vineyard, they throw the weeds into these holes. So it kind of was a natural phenomena that they ended up with these rabbits in these caves, but they'd feed them by giving them, so it almost disappeared. And he really revived it. And the wine is special too.
It started with the Phoenicians.
Okay.
The Phoenicians were conquering the Mediterranean. And
Yeah.
Ischia was a very rich island with like iron ore and mines and wine and food. And they were afraid if they came back with their soldiers and all their people, they would be without food. So wherever they went, they left rabbits.
Yeah.
And the rabbits
interesting.
populated the island, so they knew they would always get food. And then the whole thing about raising them in the caves was so that you could get them.
Yeah.
And then feed them the special herbs and everything. But yeah, the whole things disappeared from like 2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
And still today, I was just back there, pre-COVID, like 2 Novembers ago. And we went to Ischia for the day, and I knew we didn't have time to go up to their restaurant, but I saw when we were down around the water that somebody had the rabbit on the menu. I said, oh my God, we've got to have this. And I said, I was so excited, And he said, oh no, you can't have this. You have to, order it and then we cook it for you. And I'm like, it's a rabbit. This is a stew. This is something that should always be cooked. You can vacuum pack it. It's not going to go bad.
Yeah.
When people come, you open it. I go, I'm a chef. I know, I work in a restaurant. But the Italian mentality is they will cook it for you if you're coming.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
So there's several things too that and I think I had somebody else that went up to his restaurant and they hated it.
Yeah.
But I have no idea why. I have no idea what they expected. She goes, oh my God, we had to rent a car to get up there, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know if they reserve, because usually these sort of things are things you reserve. People know
Yeah.
you're coming. They know you're coming for that, so they're waiting for you,
Yeah.
and it's in a special experience. If people
Yeah.
just show up, they figured you're not prepared, I think. You know?
Well, the other thing is, and they did mention this on the show, is that every part of the rabbit is reserved for a certain member of the family.
Yeah.
And the worst part of the rabbit, like I think you get the front leg if you're like the matriarch.
Yeah.
You know, the big fat legs of the back go to the men, or the saddle, and the kids, you know, get something else, and the mother gets kind of the worst thing. I mean, I think even the head is eaten. But
I ate the little cheeks out of mine, you know, but they eat eyeballs and the tongues. They eat nothing's wasted,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
The sugo to get the ragu, all
Yeah.
rabbits here are always sold with the head on it, and it's usually wrapped because
Yeah.
there's some blood in there, and the blood actually flavors and thickens the ragu. So,
Wow.
and then it's got the liver.
The rabbits in Tuscany are huge. We had a chef, our teacher was from Arezzo, and he had a Michelin restaurant. You would probably, can't think of what his name was. But his mother was Scottish and his dad was Italian or something.
That sounds
kind of a big guy. I might think of it later. Anyway, he brought a rabbit to our school, and the thing was enormous. Like it was a hare. It was a wild hare. And that was completely different. It had to be cooked a lot. And it was like, you know, marinated in red wine and I think some spices.
Exactly.
For a couple of days.
They even do chocolate sauce here, agrodolce. And it's
really,
it's done in wine and spices. And then at the very end, it's like a mole. You throw a bit of chocolate in, and then that thickens the sauce. It's delicious.
Well, and somebody said to me the other day, they saw some Italian dish that had clove in it. And I'm like, oh, no, that's very historic. That's a very antique recipe that comes from the spice trade that came through Venice. So
yeah, we have what's called drugs, Tuscan drugs. And it's the spice blend that goes in pan forte. And it's like pumpkin pie spice sideways, I say. That the cinnamon is on the lower end.
Yeah.
It's ginger, coriander, cloves, allspice, nutmeg, mace. I've even seen one blend with galanga in it.
Wow.
But cinnamon is on the lower end of that. And besides pan forte, it's used in salami making. And I put it in my ragu.
Yeah.
Because we can buy it a blend already. So.
And then there's Barolo Quinoto, which is also, you know, So spices are used. Some people don't really realize that. They think it's all tomatoes and basil, but no. There's a lot of exotic spices historically in Italian cuisine.
Before we started recording too about that, about how different Italian American cuisine is from that there is no Italian cuisine. It's all regional cooking. So a lot of people are disappointed when they come here and they don't find their grandmother's spaghetti sauce in Florence or Torino because their grandmother was from Naples or Sicily. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've heard, I mean, there might be different opinions, but that like the spaghetti and meatballs, there were a lot of Napolitano immigrants to New York, New Jersey, Brooklyn. And, you know, if you all of a sudden get to the land of plenty and you have more money, like there's polpetti di pane, like bread balls.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have a bit more money in your pocket, you're going to substitute those bread balls for meat.
Yeah. Well, the other thing was too, like, especially in Naples, when they cook, the real Napolitano ragu has pieces of meat in it. There's like, you know, the neck, there's sausages, ribs, pork and beef combined, mostly onions, the tomato sauce. And then the meat is taken out and served as the main course. And the sauce is put on the pasta because like in the big night, pasta is your first course.
Yeah.
And meat is the second course.
To fill everybody up, fill their belly first and then give them the expensive stuff.
So my theory is when people finally got to America and had money, they made this huge, big, really tomatoey tomato sauce on a big bowl of pasta, but everybody got like one meatball.
Yeah.
And it was a single course meal. There was spaghetti and meatballs and then meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they kind of adapted from what they would have done was, you know, throw stew meat in and take it out. They didn't have enough time or money probably to have both. And so I think that things have changed, and I'm not against Italian American food, just from years of living here, I'm tired of hearing people saying this is not Italian food when they come to
Yeah.
Florence.
Yeah.
They're not finding anything that they're looking for. And when we
Yeah.
were also talking about dialect, in Florence, a bracciole is a paper thin slice of beef like a breakfast steak.
Yeah.
In Naples, it's a rolled up stuffed piece of beef cooked in that tomato sauce
Oh,
and
okay.
then taken back out. So it's got like ham and cheese and hard boiled eggs in it. And it's like a Sunday
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so someone goes, oh, look, there's bracciole on the menu. And they order it and they get this pan sauteed piece of beef. And they're like, that's not what I ordered. It's like,
Well, I mean, it's important just to think, people think Italy is so ancient. Italy is not ancient. It hasn't been unified very long. 1860, what was it? 1860 something. I can never remember
65,
which year. Yeah.
it's like
So
in
it hasn't
America.
really,
I've never
yeah.
had grits. You know, I'm from California. What's a,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I know what they are. And yeah, I've tried them a couple times now that I've gone on vacation places, but you're not going to find
Yeah.
grits in California on a menu. Hush
Yeah.
puppies,
Yeah.
you know? And I
Yeah.
also think like biscuits, you know, biscuits, you have to have that special flour that comes from the South. So I don't know why people don't get that there's different regional cooking around the world. Even China, look
Yeah.
how many cuisines they have, you know, Mexico.
Yeah.
But for Italy, I don't think that connects because they think they know Italian food.
Judy, I read a book that was a huge eye opener for me. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's kind of an academic book. It's called Garlic and Oil, The Politics of Food in Italy.
Mhm.
And it talks a lot about, like, you know, people think pasta, pasta, pasta in Italy. Like, there were some very interesting political food policies created, honestly, around the fascist era and just before, because people were starving, and you can't govern people who are starving. And Italy has always been a wheat deficient country. I mean, Canada exports a huge amount of wheat to Italy every year. Now I think they're a bit more diversified. There's more stuff coming from the Ukraine and everywhere else. But Italy needs to import a lot of wheat. But the book, Food and Politics, or Food, Garlic and Oil, The Politics of Food in Italy, also talks about like Pellegrino Artuzzi and like people like that were hired and commissioned by the government to try and figure out how to alleviate hunger in Italy. And all these sagra, all these festivals were a government creation to get, like, they used pride, they used a form of psychology to boost the nutrition of a Catholic country. I mean, I remember hearing in Calabria, like, if you're a young girl, you had to know like 10 different kinds of homemade pastas, because you could be married by the time you're 18 and have like 5 kids by the time you're 23. So you have to be resourceful and you have to know how to feed them. And I think there's kind of opposing things with, like, I mean, yeah, okay, stuffed pastas, there's one kind of school of thinking that it was like food of the nobility and everything else, but it's also about scraping every little bit of protein off the bones and using it, and using the broth, because the government was just trying to cram more nutrition into people, because you can't govern people who are starving.
And I also think here in a country that lived through the war, was to use everything. You know, and so, you know, now for us who are, you know, been having everything and throwing things away, the nose to tail concept wasn't even around 10 years ago, you know, that
Yeah.
you know, you can make the broth from the bones, and from the face you can make a kind of salami, and from the tongues you make this. And it's just, you know, a cow isn't just a steak. And I think, you know, I worked with Dario Cecchini for 2 years, and, you know, still been in touch with him all this time. I still love him. And his whole restaurant is nose to tail. You eat everything. So
Yeah.
there's no waste. And it, also, I think that's the one of the things about the old ragouts people used to make, that they would cook for 4 hours. When people first came over, they could only afford the cheapest cut of meats, were really the trimmings off the
Yeah.
veg cuts. And they had gristle and they had fat, and you need to cook that for at least 4 hours for that to render and tenderize anything. And it does have a fabulous flavor. And who has 4 hours anymore? Now everyone's got their Instapots or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think people are coming back
Well,
from looking for slow cooking, but they're looking for fast ways to do it.
and it's funny, you know, I mean, my work really dried up at the beginning of COVID, and I guess I could have gone out and got myself a service industry job. But honestly, weighing everything out, I have a house that I had neglected for more than 10 years here in Victoria. It was rented out, and I had my apartment back. So I've spent a lot of time working on my garden. I got 5 chickens. I have 5 chickens
Oh,
right here in the
fabulous.
city, and, you know, planted some extra fruit trees, and I've gotten a huge amount of satisfaction. I mean, and thinking about like nursing homes and all these terrible things that have happened for everyone. And I realized that the ability to feed myself well with not very much money. I mean, I'm not a cheap person. I have no qualms paying top dollar for the best organic stuff. But at the same time, I mean, in the month of February, I spent $300 on feeding myself. That's nothing.
Yeah.
And I ate so well. But being able to cook and being able to feed oneself is a pretty powerful thing, you
It
know?
really is. And I
And
think right now during COVID too, that people are reaching back for that. Don't you think? That whole,
yeah,
the big
yeah,
bread movement and everything, and we're learning to bake bread, and it's
yeah,
therapy as well. I mean, I find it really soothing, and I
me
like
too.
having a plan. So,
Yeah,
you can even go grocery shopping, and the fact that you didn't want to go out a lot, maybe you would plan better what you bought.
yeah,
And then like today for lunch, I had bought some, I ordered online some of it's not, it's really from Venezuela, I guess, the pan, the white masa harina that's from,
okay, yeah,
not the yellow one for like
yeah,
Mexican corn tortillas. It's for, where is it? Argentina, Venezuela, pupusas,
arepas and all
arepas,
those things.
and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But you can make a tortilla with it. I'm not gonna make just one thing. So I have my
yeah,
tortilla press. I slept from America, and I made some tortillas, and I had leftover piposo, the big beef stew cooked in wine and
yeah,
garlic and black pepper. So we had it as piposo stew one day on like mashed potatoes. And then the
yeah,
next day I just shredded the beef and put it on a tortilla, and I made a little salsa with, a tomato and an onion and this little jar. I can get Mexican jalapenos now in a jar.
yeah,
And we had Mexican food. And so we had 6 more tortillas left. And I said, oh, I've got a piece of tongue. I made a piece of boiled tongue and I had salsa verde. I said, let's make tongue tacos. And I came home and I hadn't used it in a couple days, and things don't last as long in Italy. Our
yeah,
refrigerators aren't as cold. And so I go,
yeah,
I'm not sure about this. Let's not eat it." And what did I find? Oh, I had reviewed for Savoir magazine last March, the Cool Beans book by Joe Yonan, who's the Washington Post writer.
okay,
And so he's vegetarian. So it's a book on beans, of international bean recipes from all over the world. So last March, I cooked my way through the book, and then we did like reports on it for Savoir online cookbook club. And one of the
yeah,
things he did was a black bean burger that has cumin in it, and I forget what else, but my husband loved them from last year. And he said, why don't you make those again this year? So I made them kind of like falafel size.
oh, nice,
And I kept leftovers in the freezer because I don't want to eat bean things every day. And so I just
yeah,
took them out, heated them up, smashed them on my tortilla. And then I had Sicily's raising avocados now,
wow,
Haas avocados. And so I had a
wow,
Hass avocado from Sicily, mashed it up, a little lemon juice, and put a little olive oil and salt. And I made a little salsa. And oh my God, recycling,
yeah,
clean out the freezer, stimulating, thinking, what country
yeah,
do I want to be in today? China, well, let's get some ginger.
yeah.
Italy, let's get this. And setting up your
I
pantry.
just love it. I find it so empowering. And I mean, I've been cooking professionally for 40 years. So I have a huge repertoire in my head. Like, and I get lazy. I don't want to go out shopping because I don't like it. It's not a joyful experience right now.
Mhm.
So I'll just be like, oh, one more day. I can figure out something else to cook. And it's just, and I love it. Sometimes my fridge gets so empty and I never feel insecure about it. I can always figure something out. And if not, I go and scrounge around in my backyard. I'm going to do a cooking class next week or on Monday. And we're going to do tortelli de with stinging nettles, ortica,
Yummy. Yeah.
and ricotta. And I've always eaten nettles. I mean, I love foraging for wild greens. It gets you outside. And so I don't know. I would love to see our Canadian government, we're such a kind of industrial food nation. And yeah, we've got great farmers markets and everything. But I think this whole concept of making it government policy, like we should be teaching everybody to cook. It's like everybody eats. So everybody needs to know something about cooking, and feeding yourself is so empowering. And I'm also not that lonely. I mean, with technology and Zoom and FaceTime and all these things at dinner time, I put some music on. I like basketball. I put basketball game on mute and pour myself a glass of wine. I talk to people or not, listen to the news on the radio. And like, people think it's kind of a really lonely time. It's the time I'm happiest with myself, actually. I have all the things around me that I love,
I think that's important. I think a lot of people, especially people that are single, are having a hard time. And I just keep telling people food is such a great way to take care of yourself, number one.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's a vicious circle, because then they're sad, they're lonely, they're unhappy, they don't want to eat. And
that's never happened to me.
But no, I find that it's symptomatic of the people that are unhappy.
Wow.
And I hate being unhappy. So I would always, I try to stimulate myself with what would make me happy. And if I'm not hungry, I mean, I'm happy to eat an apple. I have my little farmer's market girl, and I got some beautiful apples. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, I can now buy Manitoba flour in the grocery store.
Wow.
So originally, I think it was only sent to the commercial people for like pasta making and bread baking.
Yeah.
And when the COVID thing came out, all of a sudden I could buy all these other different, more professional kinds of flour. And Manitoba was probably the first one that came out.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of the big industrial pasta in Italy is actually made with Manitoba flour.
Yeah.
And the great irony of this is that I actually buy Italian box dried pasta here. And it's the quality of the bronze dyes that extrude the pasta and the technology that makes the pasta so good. But the terrible irony, and for me as somebody who cares about food miles, it bothers me, but there's a good chance that flour came from Manitoba. And I think it's so interesting how, the Caputo, you have to make pizza with the flour from Italy. Like sometimes I wonder, well, is that flour for sure from Italy? Like, Italy's a net importer of flour. So,
but I think the one thing that people don't realize is that the flour that they're using to make that Caputo stuff is very low gluten.
Yeah.
And
okay.
And so we don't have a lot of the high gluten flours.
Yeah.
We have a lot of low gluten flours, which is more like white lily in southern part of the United States. It's for biscuits.
Okay.
So that's why I can't make a biscuit in California, because I can't get that low gluten flour.
Yeah.
So
the local flours in Italy, like it's more hard flour in the south and soft flour in the north, right?
Yeah. So it's
and the flour in the south is more yellowy.
Like do you go to Filippo?
Yes. Yeah.
So he has that ancient grain, the Tumenia, which is so fabulous. And that bread is beautiful. The bread from Matera, that's pure 100% durum wheat.
Yeah.
It tastes like cake. I just love it. And the fragrance when you cook with it. Tuscan bread is pretty normal and flat and saltless, so not really exciting. But there's something in between. Like now too, at my grocery stores, I can actually get a rye bread. It's a blend, but they're selling it like it's rye, whereas before we never had rye. And so I think the baking craziness has also brought out the search for better, and here at the heirloom wheats are really sought after. And in my next village over, I have a local mill, and I can get a whole bunch of different kinds of flour that are freshly milled like daily.
Yeah.
And there's people here growing wheat that that's make pasta and then sell it locally too. So it's a huge trend, I think, now of getting back into that, but they'll never produce enough for like DiCecco or Barilla, ever,
No, no,
ever, ever.
no, no.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's so fun to talk with another chef, and actually often when we see each other, we don't have that much time to talk. Sometimes we're with
We're
guests
working.
or yeah,
We came
yeah,
to Cataldo, we got to talk, yeah.
yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So let
Yeah.
me just sign off now. I'm gonna be putting this on YouTube, and then I'll put your website. And how do we find
Great.
out where you're teaching classes? Will that be on your site, or you're on Instagram, right?
I haven't put it on my site. My site is a bit static. I'm really active on Instagram, honestly.
Okay.
I'm not on Facebook, but
And it's
on
your
Instagram.
name, right?
And Ottavio Italian Bakery. If you go to the website of Ottavio, I think it's Ottavio. If you just
Mara,
type
just write to me
Ottavio,
afterwards, and then I'll put it on the YouTube link.
sounds perfect.
So this is gonna stay on my YouTube channel, which is Divina Cucina. And
Yeah.
then I'll put links on my Facebook. We'll link to it everywhere. And then
Yeah.
we'll see where your calendar is. So if people want to take a class with you. What's your next class?
Yeah, and also if anybody had any questions, you can always email me. My email's really easy. It's my name, Mara Jernigan @gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. So let me just sign off on the Facebook. Perfect. And I'll stop